Yep. So how are y'all doing overall? Gee, I'm sorry I can't hear your audio, but is there anything you want to put in the chat? Direct questions I can answer for you or Tracy. What I plan on doing here is to walk through a little bit about what you guys are working on in your lab this week here in a moment, kind of working on how to work the in SAS the ability to do the summary statistics that is the walkthrough and show you a couple versions of that to see if there's any questions you have. But do you have any other just general questions for me? I know we didn't have a chance to meet last week. Um, Anything just in general I can help with y'all with, just to make sure you have any quick questions out of the way?
I think for right now I'm okay. I
Okay.
just started getting into some of the videos, so I'm sure I'll have more questions soon.
Great. Yeah, I mean the week one was week one was pretty straightforward. I think I graded everybody's assignments. Everybody did fine. I think getting the ability to upload the data set for the salary data. You all did a good job transforming the variable or changing the name of age, right, from the year of birth. And I think everybody understood why we need to do that. Let me share my screen actually. So I've got it built. So can y'all see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay. So, one of the things I would have said last week to everybody would be just get familiar with your data, right? So I'll just kind of give a brief overview of last week, and you guys already had the videos inside Blackboard. It's just get familiar with your data. Obviously, the salary data is going to talk about individuals and all kinds of demographic information, marital status, year of birth, which we need to change the age because year of birth isn't really that something you really want to analyze. No one wants to look at a bunch of 1977s to 1963s, right? Age is really how we're going to segment and group people. So that's why we went through that practice of changing, that variable, the name of it to age. In SAS, though, it's interesting. You do have to build a calculation for it. So taking us back to memory lane for last week, it's just a matter of we have to absolutely take it to the subtraction of the year that you're in, because who knows, right? Maybe you're using this data set in 2023 and you're going to pull back up in 2024. What's interesting about a data set where you have year of birth is you have to continue to remember to go back and subtract it from whatever year you're in. A pretty straightforward thing, but it's just something to keep in mind. Other tools out there, they have a way to calculate it for you because I look at your calendar year that you're in. I'm not trying to cause any confusion. I'm just saying what's the very focused nuance of SAS. So let's say you were using this data in 2023, you'd have to remember to go back and do this in the data set. So that way, the years keep changing. But overall, though, y'all did a good job figuring out how to change the name of the column and all that. This is the data set here. Okay, so one of these we're going to look at doing this week, though, we're going to move on from those types of pieces, right? We're just really getting our data set. Week one was just getting the data in a way that we can use it for analysis. Now we have that, we can actually take a look at a few different views. So this week being descriptive statistics, descriptive analytics, it's all based off historical data. And that's what we've got here, snapshot in time and all the profile data of our customers. And I think the videos that have already been posted and the material pretty much explain, in marketing, it's all about your audiences and really understanding how to get to them, to segment them in a way that gets them to similar kinds of attributes, right? So whether it's age as one, income levels as another, education levels, right? You want to segment your customers based off your product or service, and there's certain types of products or services that make sense for certain people of certain income levels, ages versus others, right? And you can target your customers with that with advertising. So what we're going to do here is just look at the data set we've got with salary data. The other videos inside Blackboard are about someone's favorite color of a car. Those are good demonstrations too, but I thought we'd actually use the data that we're using for the purposes of this, right? So the output data here of age, so we've got that built in, just always going to double check it. So you all are familiar with this step at this point. All we're going to do now is take the same data set you worked on last week and build out a few views. So one of the things to keep in mind is under the tasks and utilities dropdown is your summary statistics. So Summary statistics are going to be your baseline descriptive statistics, right? Very fundamental, a building up, if you will, of a view of the data. Okay. So with the salary info, though, one of the things it asks you is to look at a couple things. One is just look at the overall view of a certain variable by itself. That's the analysis variable. Okay. So here's what I mean. Your classification variable is what you're trying to understand against the analysis variable. The analysis variable is kind of like your core variable that you're trying to understand different views of. So let's say it was age, right? Well, I want to know how income and age correlate with each other, or how does the country of origin match up with age, right? So your classification variable are the variables you're trying to measure up against a foundational variable, which is your analysis variable. So one of the things that asks you in the assignment is, well, let's just take a look at the view of, this would pull up for me. There we go. Make sure you highlight your column, by the way. It'll be light gray. So that's one thing I always jump straight to the plus sign, but make sure you actually highlight the column here. Hit the plus sign. And for some reason, it's not letting me demo this way I want to demo this. Hold on one second, guys. Output. I'm having an issue with my ability to add and drop. This might be why. Oh, this is why. I need to use the right data set. Excuse me. Mine is called change age. There we go. So first off, make sure the right data set. Mine, I called it when I changed the age, was change age. So there you go. Another lesson learned, right? You always have fundamentals. So in the data that you're using, mine, that's for your file, whatever you called it, I called it work change age because that's what we did earlier in this program here of the coding to change the age. Now that I'm here, got the right data, then you can click your plus sign and pull in the right columns.
I think he's gone. I can't hear you. I can read your lips. Unless you start talking Mandarin to me, then I'll be completely lost. Yeah, I can't hear you.
All right, I'm back. I'm sorry, that intermittent outage there. Okay, let's go back to, we're still recording, good. Okay, here's where we are. Back to the screen. I got the right data columns in now for the right data set. Now I can actually add the columns. So analysis variable is, we just want to take a look at, for example, income. What does that mean in general to us, right? What does that just distribution look like? So the output is where you want to make sure you have the right name for that data set. Now you can call this whatever you want. If you wanted to change it here, you could, but I'm going to keep the data set name the same as I had it when I first created it over here. But there's an opportunity here when you start doing visualization to change it again. I'm not asking you to do that in the assignment nor this week, but just know you have another opportunity to change it if you wanted to here. There's always a point in time you can change the name. And the reason why is because at some point, and this is just an extra tidbit, at some point you may want to change it because you're going to have different views to look at, right, on different variables. That's just one thing to keep in mind in the output. You can't change the name there. But for this, I got income level. And then from here, I want to build my options. And in my options, I've got pretty much the plots area. So we want to build a histogram and a box plot. So pretty straightforward. Just check the box. And you're welcome to add in the inset statistics. It's just more information, right? At minimum, check the box for histogram and box plot. This will give you a straight up view of these two different visualization techniques. And if you click histogram too, it's fine. It'll do it still for both histogram and box plot. But if you want to have another view of it by itself without a box plot, you can. Okay, so what I'm saying is you can look at a histogram by itself, or if you want to look at it with a box plot, method, you can click the box and check the box there too, right? So basically you have all your different values that you can look at, your mean, which is your average, right? Your median, if you wanted to look at that, you could, right? The middle number, kind of the most, right in the middle of all the different ranges of income levels. So let's say it's between 0 and 100,000. Maybe right in the middle is 50,000 as an example. But regardless of that, though, you can definitely collect all of your basic data here, standard deviation, minimum, max, etc. If you wanted to, you could bring in other statistics. Your mode is something we talk about a lot, how often a certain number is represented. We'll show that in a minute. And these others aren't ones I would worry about right now, but for the most part, though, you want your mean, median, and modes at minimum to take a look at the averages, the kind of halfway number, what is the average halfway number, and then the most often what is the most frequent salary or income level in the data set, right? So once you have all that built out, you check the boxes, you just go over here and click run, and then you shoot an output of a view. And all we're doing here again is looking at the distribution of income. That's it. We're not looking at any of the other factors of marital status, age, any of that yet as an example. So the first question you have, let me pull over the homework you've got. 1 second. So here in the data lab 2 you got for the week, these are all the data points. It just tells you all the data you've got. But here, when it starts asking you summary statistics, here's income. Just did it for you. What you're all really doing is what I just built, right? It's asking you what are the number of observations, means, standard deviation, min, max for the variable income. Well, that view should look just like this when you're done, right? These are the numbers that we're talking about. So it's a descriptive view of the income variable in this data set. So the average salary, basically the mean, if you all can see that, is 52,247.25 cents. Very specific. The standard deviation is $25,000 from the average. So we have $25,000 delta between the two. The minimum salary is income level. I keep saying salary, but income level, 1,730, and the max is undefined because there could be some null values in there. And then the number of respondents in the set was 2,216. So here is just a data set to look at that. You can kind of see that now the histogram view, bar graph pretty much is giving you the percent of those who are in these brackets of income. Okay, so it's just a visualization view. Now you just have that as a descriptive point. You can stop there. Maybe the question is, what is our income levels of our clients, our customers? What's the percent of those in a certain range? Well, $60,000 is the average, is about 52, but we have a lot of clients that are in this bracket of, let's say, 60,000 to 100. That's our target group, that's our average customer, etc. Here is a distribution frequency view as well, right? This view is going to give you the ability to kind of, when we say a plot, is plot that, or where's the most likely highest group of potential customers. And that's in these ranges here, right? These are the majority. If you have the 37% plus this 42%, the majority of your customers are here, right? So now you're looking at the majority for the most part. That's what the plot chart really means, is if I was going to plot out my groups in a box plot, where would they be? This one's very simple to look at, but there's other views you'd have of other variables where you could have some kind of all over the place, where you're going to have a percent of customers in one income level maybe versus another if these income levels are very disparate, right? If we had income levels between 0 and all the way to 1 million, well, then maybe our box plot would be kind of multiple groups, right? Because we have more of an equitable distribution, right? 20% here, 20% there, 20% there, right? It's all about distribution and percentages and groups. Here, though, this data set is pretty much within one big cluster, right? You look at this kind of symbol here as a cluster, and the majority of our customers are in these brackets, in the kind of below $100,000, mid $50,000 to $100,000 brackets, because our income ranges here at the bottom are very high, right? So if I wanted to shrink this up, I could, and then look at it in more detail from there. But for this, we're looking at it from a wider distribution perspective. Any questions on that I can answer? That's basically the gist of that first question, and how to do that from a one variable perspective. Any questions? And I know Chi, you can't. No. Okay. Tracy, do you have any questions?
I think I'm good with that. So for that, all we do is just screenshot that and put it in the.
Yep. And yeah, absolutely. And just all you have to do is take a screenshot of that, and that's it. Yeah, just to get a familiarity with how to build out a view of one variable and uh, distribution of that one variable. That's it.
Okay.
Yep. So the next thing we'll do is take a look back at we'll go back to the data. So now we're going to do is take a look at income and country. So the next question that you had, I'm going to stop with that one because you have a few more to do, right? There's a few others, but the same steps I'm showing you here are the same that you would do in the assignment. But for this, I actually want to bring in the classification variable of country. Country is now, I want to know the different distributions of income levels by country, right? Because now I can get, let's say I'm a global marketing firm, I have an international audience, and it makes sense for me to take a look at the different income levels by country, because that's just something we want to take a look at, and there might be a value there for some reason. So what I'm going to go back is the data. I've already got the income level here. All I need to do is drop down the country. Click OK, and that's it. Now you have the options here again. Just go back and make sure all your boxes are checked. Normally, you don't have to go back and redo anything here because it's already built for you, but you might as well at least triple check the options are already there because you did it before. Now for this though, what I want to look at is comparative box plot. This is something that's worth doing with any comparison of a variable. So for country, I want to compare, right? I want to look at the distribution and comparison between multiple countries, right? How does, these two countries compare to these two countries? There may be a benefit to that if you're really trying to target users in marketing with certain campaigns. So it tells you, more precisely, more of a better view, more narrow view of where is the better potential audience based on certain, for this income levels, but whatever variable you're looking at. So you have that ready, you just hit run. Okay, so here are the results. Now this is where you've got the table view, and I'll zoom in a little bit. You'll take a screenshot of this, right? And then it'll show that. Now you do have to answer questions below that. So the thing is, I guess I can tell you, yes, you do have to screenshot it, but then you have to answer the question. So you would describe your outputs, by the way. So to take it a step further, yes, you would actually answer the questions. What do you see? Okay. So for the last one, by the way, with income, you would show the average. You say the average income is $52,000. You have the number of what is the mean, median, and mode. It's really just talking about this. What does the data output look like? So you would actually talk in summary, a sentence or two for each of these. Like this question is, what can you say about the average income by country, right? So you would actually provide this output of data, right? Well, the average income by country, that's the question. So here's the average income, okay? By country, you have Australia at $51,000, Canada at $53,000, etc. So we can say at a global view, though, if you really wanted to take a look at this, the average is right around $50,000, right? If you really wanted to take the table and actually add it up and divide it, you could. But the average kind of income across all these countries is in the low to mid 50,000s, if that makes sense, right? You're really just answering a descriptive question there. So there's no difference now. If I'm answering the question, all right, are there any higher income levels with our customers in a different country? The answer would actually be no, right? Because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, well, this is all looks very relative. There's no disparity, if you will, on the distribution of that. Another way you can look at that is by checking out the distribution of income here. Here we've actually done a comparison by countries now. This is Canada versus Australia, right? So if you look at it, again, they're relatively within the same, and this is why this curve chart here makes sense to look at. They're relatively the same. You can look at Australia, the average salary here, 51,804 with the mean here, 53,000 dollars pretty much in Canada. So each country, for the most part, your results basically tell you that, comparing countries, your average salaries or your income levels, excuse me, I keep saying salaries, your average income levels are about the same. There's not a much of a difference between the two. And that's really all you would need to say. But why would a marketer need that, by the way? Again, that's because if I wanted to target higher income customers across the world, I don't have that audience. So I don't really have that as an option. I can actually say, no matter what we market, depending on, what we're marketing, all income levels are equal for the most part, right? As far as a group of customers. They're off by a few $1,000s, but not that far off, right? So, and what's good about this view, though, again, you can actually take multiple countries, go side by side. Let's say, for example, again, there was a big difference in these averages. Let's say, for example, this number in the US was, let's call it 80,000, and this in, I guess, Spain, SP, was $30,000. Then you have a delta, right? A pretty significant difference in income levels. And on that, you would say, all right, I'm only going to target higher income earners, the United States, and I will not target lower income earners, and that's going to be Spain. And why is income important again? Because let's say you're, a higher end brand of something. Let's say you are a Cadillac or a, higher end car manufacturer. Well, I don't know if I'm going to market a car to somebody who makes at a certain benchmark of income, right? It just on average, those in certain income levels can afford our vehicles, right? So that's why we use income as one variable, by the way, in marketing. We know there's an affordability thing out there, and it just makes sense to be prudent with our analytics to find that. So that's an example of how to build out a view of analysis variable and classification variable. You will do this for age by itself, and then age and marital status. So I'm not going to do that. That's questions 3 and 4 here. The same flow, if you will, and steps to do the descriptive variable by itself of income. You'll deal with age in question 3, and then you'll bring in the marital status to compare that to age, just like I did with number 2, where I did country and income. So these are relatively the same steps, just different variables for the most part. Does that make sense? Is there any questions about that I can answer?
No, it makes sense.
Cool. All right, good. So this again is just the process of building the histograms. That's pretty much the same thing. You're going to run the same same formula for the most part. When I say formula too, these are all drop downs menus, right? Your options are all drop downs here. It does tell you how to code it if you wanted to, but you don't have to, because right here under summary statistics is your ability to do the drop down menus. Okay. So that's why it's important to definitely watch, those demo videos. And then this one here, of course, to look at the drop down options, right? The next thing I want to show you is the next part of your assignment for the week. Down here, a frequency table. Okay. Now this part of the frequency table is pretty straightforward. What you're going to do is go here to distribution analysis. Okay. Now distribution analysis is going to be a distribution of a variable, right? So for this, I'm going to do income, okay, as the same one we've been looking at for the most part. All you're doing is bringing in income. Now, for this, though, if I wanted to group it by a certain group, let's say I want to look at income again and country. We'll stay on that same theme. Here, though, I'm going to look at a higher distribution, correlation, if you will, on, again, the distribution of country and income. It is going to be similar to what you saw somewhat earlier in the box plot, but the view is a little bit different. So earlier we said by country, income levels really don't change very much. They're in that low $50,000 range. But for the sake of this, though, to look at it in a different way, you're just looking at this honestly from a distribution perspective in a bar graph. That's the only difference here that you're doing, right? That's the only difference with this. So when you say distribution frequency, it literally is an output of data from a bar graph perspective. This is good though, because honestly, even though 50,000 range is the average, you still want to know who are the customers in certain countries. And this country is Germany, for example. This one's India. This one is ME. I'm thinking ME is, I don't know what ME is. That's a good question. Mexico, probably, right? This at least tells you the distribution by the frequency by country. So if, for example, my strategy in marketing was to go global and I wanted to know, do I have to understand at a global scale the income levels and averages? Well, they're all the same, around $50,000. But if I wanted to target users in Germany and Germany only for some reason, I wanted to do a campaign in marketing just to the German audience. Well, okay, well, how many are in that $50,000 bracket? But I also have some customers over here for clients that are in the higher end. So maybe I can offer them just in Germany a higher end, how do you say, offer, right? The step up model, the higher end brand, whatever. And that's why, you can't just stop at the first view and say, well, all countries are the same. Yeah, technically, but if you want to get even more granular in a certain country, for example, it's Germany, and you have some of these higher end potential customers here. And I can take that a step further and look at Germany. I look here at, this is India. I have some, but not as many as I do in Germany. So I can actually start saying maybe there's a few countries that I want to segment in the higher income levels versus others. India, maybe I don't, because there's not as many in the higher quadrant here. There's quite a few here, right? So it's taking it a step, it's more narrow in the segmentation, it's further down in the view, but that's what we do in marketing. We want to get down to a level of segmentation that really gives us the best opportunity to engage customers. And the better we can speak to them on that level, the better. Because if we all see the same advertisement, if you keep getting the same advertisement, you're never gonna, have an opportunity to engage with a brand or company on a personal level, right? We call it personalization. Personalization is growing in marketing. It's one of the number one reasons we buy from, companies that we prefer to shop with. If you show me a product that I know I have interest in, or a service, or a price, or a brand that I have interest in, that's what we're really trying to do here, right? And sometimes we don't know exactly that. We may have to look at it from an income perspective, age. I mean, there's some products that make sense to market to a younger audience versus older audience. So when you do the age analysis, you'll write that up. Like this, age group has a distribution of this percent of, customers in this age band, age range. And, in the world of marketing, age is a big deal, right? I mean, we're going to market a certain way to the older audience versus the younger audience, or whatever age groups you're doing. So that's why we do it this way. This is why it's a very straightforward view of building histograms and box plots and distribution frequencies like this to really get a view of it to that kind of visualization perspective. So you get some of the, instead of just looking at tables all day, if all we did was look at this all day long, from a results perspective, we go back to, let's say here, where are the results? If all we did was spend all of our time looking at tables all day, we'll never have an opportunity to really understand the opportunity that much, right? Because this is an eye chart, obviously, right? We need to know our descriptive data. We need to know the numbers, but until you visualize it, you're really not going to get a good view of like where are your pockets of opportunity, right? Really, where do you group certain customers out? How do you group certain ranges of income or certain whatever variables you're looking at? That's why the visualization is really critical here, right? This again is good, but you're not going to make a lot of decisions off of it. I much have a better opportunity to make a decision off, a visualization like this to know my income levels that are worth targeting versus a data set like this, right? So that's really descriptive. That's really the whole goal of this week, is just to understand how to build the views and then fundamentally understand how to read them from both a table perspective, but more importantly, a histogram and distribution perspective. Any questions that I can answer? I think, Chi, I can't hear you, sir. I think you're on mute still. Yeah, unfortunately, I still can't seem to hear you. You want to try to put it in the chat? Do you want to put a question in the chat by chance? Will that work? And I apologize. I don't know if it's just what's going on there with that. Tracy, any questions I can help you with?
I think I'm good right now. You really explained a lot with everything. So.
Good. Okay. We'll wait for Chi's question. I'll answer that, and then we can kind of go from there. All right, let's see here. Should we do either distribution of income from summary or distribution analysis? I would do distribution analysis and summary. I do both because, again, it's just about, for the homework sake, the summary statistics is enough. I was thinking one step further just to show how you can compare and contrast views to see if you get a different, how do you say, perception on the data. But fundamentally, yes, summary statistics is enough because you have the view there. You absolutely do. This distribution analysis lets you take it a step further from a view of getting down to country by country. So I was just offering that as a step further, but yeah, for the sake of the assignment, you won't have to go that far. Make sense? Okay. Great. Okay, y'all. Well, I appreciate it. I know it's short and sweet. I just wanted to offer the opportunity. I'll post this video and then I'll be here next week again. If it's all y'all who are watching this video and y'all here, if you have any questions over the weekend, just send me a note. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. Take care. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.